Hello YouTube. In part 10 of Don't Vote for the Douche or the Turd, I gave a rebuttal to Obama's speech to Planned Parenthood on July 17, 2007. Now I continue with my rebuttal in part 11 of Don't Vote for the Douche or the Turd. At a time when a real war is being fought abroad, it would have us continue to fight cultural wars here at home. But I'm absolutely convinced that culture wars are so 90s. Their days are going dark. It is time to turn the page. Agreed, it is time to turn the page on the selective moralities of the far left and the far right, and have a consistent ethical agenda where all forms of needless bloodshed, both in and outside the womb, are condemned, where the individual rights are tempered with the responsibilities toward one another, especially the most vulnerable amongst us, regardless of what stage of life they're in. It's time to turn the page on a stance that refuses compassionate support of victims of rape and sexual assault. This is a bold-faced lie. Yes, there are people who identify as pro-life, including myself, who do not believe that rape, as horrible of a crime as it is a legitimate reason to allow an abortion to occur. But there are many sincere members of the pro-life community, albeit they are mistaken, but they are sincere, that believe there should be exceptions in cases of rape. And while there are unfortunately people who identify as pro-life that could care less about women who are rape victims, this does not stem from the fact that they may or may not believe that there should be exceptions in cases of rape. It just means they're jackasses. Yes, a woman getting raped is a tragedy, and the woman should get whatever treatment she needs to alleviate her suffering, but her unborn child should not be punished for a crime his father committed. If the mother is psychologically incapable of taking care of the child should either be given to a relative or given up for adoption. The adoption system may not be perfect, but it is preferable in nearly every case to abortion because it leaves the child as somewhat of a chance at life. Obama continues his remark by saying, "Not even to the brave service women fighting for our country, who aren't getting the support they need when they come home, as veterans of the United States of America." Exactly. How is allowing female troops to murder their unborn children on military bases supporting them? Many of them and their male counterparts have emotional scars from the stupid and senseless war in Iraq, so why risk another potential emotional scar with abortion? There's a moral component to prevention, and we shouldn't be shy about acknowledging it. As parents and as family members, we need to encourage young people to show reverence towards sexuality and intimacy. And exactly how is supporting Planned Parenthood, who makes a countless profits from encouraging a culture of if it feels good, do it, and discouraging a culture of personal and moral responsibility, both politically and through the coercion of the American taxpayer, going to do that? Now, the good news is that there's been a decline in the teen birth rate, in part due to the outstanding work of Planned Parenthood. Notice how Obama said teen birth rate as opposed to teen pregnancy rate. Yes, teenage pregnancy is never a good thing, but teenage abortion and abortion in general is far worse. The ends do not justify the means. The way to decrease unintended pregnancies amongst teens and other women is not through the poison pill of abortion, but is by aggressively pursuing solutions to the social ills which cause women to have abortions in the first place, like poverty, lack of education, lack of affordable housing, health care, and child care, encouraging a culture of personal and social responsibility, where increasing access to contraceptives and encouraging responsible sexual behavior are in harmony instead of conflict, and where this is all accomplished without funding Planned Parenthood and other members of the abortion industry, which are undermining some of these goals. There's a bill in Congress which will do these things and more, and it is called the Pregnant Women's Support Act. It is a comprehensive set of policy proposals which, if enacted, could reduce the number of abortions in America by 95% in 10 years. That is why I strongly support this bill and urge that Congress pass it ASAP. We can update the social contract so that caring for a newborn baby isn't a 3-month break. It's a paid leave so that all of our children have basic health care. Or we can change the social contract to what Obama's twisted voting record indicates and invent a right to murder newborn babies in addition to unborn babies. Yes, caring for a newborn baby should be paid leave as opposed to a 3-month unpaid break. But hearing this from Obama is like hearing George Bush say that America's addicted to oil. Sure, both statements are true, but the messenger's credibility is questionable at best. After giving his speech, Obama took some questions from the audience. I'm going to give my rebuttal to 2 of Obama's answers to the questions. The first question is about Obama's health care plan. Obviously, my hope under a universal health care system is that everybody's got access to basic care and we have less of a patchwork quilt of services. That I still believe. It's important for organizations like Planned Parenthood to be part of that system, because many young women, for example, may be much more comfortable, whether in college or universities, to other places, going to Planned Parenthood clinics and services to get contraception, for example. So my hope is that we still have non-profit participation under my plan. Folks, I'm for universal health care 100%. As a matter of fact, I'm for a single-payer system so that greedy corporations that form the insurance industry and the abortion industry cannot deny millions of people the ability to see a doctor because they can't afford it, or bribe politicians to hold a gun to the American taxpayers' heads in order to fund something which millions of Americans believe is murder. The primary purpose of medicine is to heal the sick, and the perverse influence of the insurance industry has undermined this purpose by making the basic human right to see a doctor a luxury, and the perverse influence of the abortion industry has undermined this purpose by legitimizing infanticide as a medical procedure, instead of something that should only be used in the most extreme circumstance, being if the pregnancy threatens the mother's life. To use a medical analogy, you must remove as much of the cancer as possible in order to save the patient. The next and final question I'm giving a rebuttal to is about recent Supreme Court decisions regarding abortion, which have upheld certain abortion restrictions like the ban on partial birth abortions. Well, the first thing I'd do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act. That's the first thing I'd do. But your question about the federal courts is absolutely on target. I taught constitutional law for 10 years, and I have to say that after reading this latest decision, and the series of decisions that the Supreme Court has been put forward, that I find it baffling. For those of you unfamiliar with the Freedom of Choice Act, it is a radical pro-abortion bill that has been introduced to Congress several times, and that was passed a few times, and has thankfully been vetoed. If the Freedom of Choice Act is passed, it will nullify nearly every state, local, and national restriction on abortion, which is included but not limited to the partial birth abortion ban, the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which is now protecting babies born after failed abortion attempts, waiting periods before a woman can receive an abortion, parental notification and consent laws before minors can receive abortions, and restrictions on taxpayer funding for abortion like the Hyde Amendment, which banned taxpayer funding through the Medicaid program except in cases of rape, incest, and the life of the mother, and the Mexico City policy, which bans family planning organizations that perform elective or non-medically necessary abortions or advocate for looser abortion restrictions in their countries from receiving taxpayer funding. That's all for Part 11 of Don't Vote for the Douche or the Turd. Stay tuned for Part 12, where I continue my rebuttal of Obama's answer to the last question he was asked after his Planned Parenthood speech and go into more detail about the potential consequences of the passage of the Freedom of Choice Act, the potential passage, and expose the scandal of the massive amount of taxpayer dollars organizations like Planned Parenthood receive, thanks in large part to politicians like Barack Obama.